We're here today to talk about the next phase of our transit project, our bus network redesign. Today we're going to talk about and just go through some of our where we're at today, how we've engaged the public, what we've heard from them, what we did with that feedback, and a little bit about what's going to happen next. So on the bus network redesign itself. This is the first major transit project in redesigns probably in the last couple decades. So this project is absolutely going to transform the bus network as we see it today. Over the last few months, city staff have been working diligently at redesigning the network from scratch. So we whiteboarded the entire network, really lifted all the routes up and took an effort at redesigning that entire network from scratch. That redesign effectively delivers a transit service that is focused on better customer experience and prudent use of taxpayer dollars. So what's changing? What's changing from today? Some of the important changes on the new network include different service patterns, inner and outer areas. The one thing we discussed as we rolled out the first design was looking at the inner ring road and what kind of transit service looks like in there, and then the outer ring road and what kind of transit service looks like out there. Really a hard focus on ensuring that we tailor that service to customer needs, and focused on ensuring that the different type of transit unit that's in the inner ring road gets the service that's tailored to them versus the outer ring road, which is more of a commuter service. So this service is truly tailored to that. One of the big changes is clearly distinguish different types of those routes, just as I described there. But the new routes are more direct, less overlap, and more frequent. And I think that's part of the benefit of what this new transit system can provide. And certainly the transfers at transit centers. So looking at our transit centers now and how they operate, it's really done on a pulse network. This system provides us moving away from that pulse network to that high frequency quarter network that at transit centers you'll see buses come in so frequently that those connections become less of a concern for the public. The routes will have new numbers, new signage to distinguish the route types. So as we move on to this new network, obviously there'll be a new naming convention for what that looks like, what those new routes and service types look like. And overall, there's about half the number of routes than that were there before, which has given us the ability to increase those frequencies that I talked about earlier and service times of day. Majority of the routes are within a 5 to 7 minute walk. 400 to 600 meters, and a study is underway right now to look at first kilometer, last kilometer solutions for anything that falls outside of that. So as far as project timeline goes, we are at stage 2 of this project. We've looked through, our first phase was really going out with an original intent of the network itself. Now we're into that next phase of coming out with our final network design. And this is our final network design. You'll see it here on my left. Today includes 2 phases of that public engagement. We're going into phase 2 of that public engagement. The first round has been completed and adjusted the network, and today kicks off that second round of really going out to the public and saying, we've heard you, we've made a lot of adjustments based on what we've heard. We knew for a fact that we weren't going to get this right from the start and the onset, so the feedback that we got, where we ended up with the project itself, we weren't surprised about. So this next phase for us is really going back and saying, how do we close those gaps that people are interested in, and closing those gaps that really align with the strategy and the strategic approach of this system as we move forward. And as you can see, the next phases of that project 2 will be moving into that approved network. So we're looking to go to council in April of 2019 with an approval for the final network design, with all of the comments that we receive in the next round of consultation from the public on what their thoughts are on this final network itself. So what we did and what we heard, just to briefly go over this. We engaged 2,300 people just in attending our engagement activities. 4,200 surveys were completed, 14,300 hours of public feedback that we got from the spent sharing public feedback. some of the big things we heard, the top likes and challenges with the system itself from the first round of consultation was really around, the likes were really around frequency, the directness of the routes that we had, and certainly the frequent crosstown routes, which is a decent add for the system itself. Top challenges, we all heard about them. Walking distance was one of those for sure, and I think that today we'll be pretty pleased with what we've seen on the adjustments that we've made with that. Service redistribution to busier neighborhoods, and the transfers, and certainly the seniors community routes, which have now been added back into our service design. What we did with the feedback. So lots of work has gone into the last few months of really reviewing every single comment that we got from the public, all the engagements that we went through. Our planners went thoroughly through every single route justification, conversation that they've had with people, everything that we've written down, every comment that we received, and walked through each of those to say, is this something that fits with our network design and philosophy? Is there a gap here in the service that we missed? And there certainly was, and we knew that there would be. And we've made those appropriate adjustments to the system that fit with the philosophy of the approach, and certainly closed a lot of the gaps that we saw from the public feedback that we got. So the one great thing about this process that we've gone through is really that feedback is always a gift, and I think that certainly when we look at this network design and the adjustments that we've made, you'll see a lot of that in the new design that we've shown. And more specifically on the walking distance side of it. So just to give a quick heat map on some of the changes that have made, this is an example of a heat map on the difference between our service that it was and our service that exists in the new network design. So obviously the darker the color, the longer the walking distance is. And the change of the 200 to 400 meters is the light lavender, I guess, and then kind of gradient into purple. So you can get a feel for what those walking distance look like after we've added our senior community routes back in, which weren't in the first kind of round of consultation, and have done a lot of positive steps in that. And to be more specific, the change from the 200 to 400 meters, right now, 83% of our change is within that below 200 meters. So the service itself, there's about 83% of that group that are going to be walking in the entire service area less than 200 meters than they had walked previously. So in the 200 to 400 meters, it's about 8%. So in that 200 to 400 meter range, you'll see in that light lavender, 8% of the people will be walking longer distance than they had previously walked before. And 400 to 600 meters is another 8%. 600 to 800 meters, 1%, and more than 100 meters, 1%. So huge impact on that, and we plan on impacting that a bit more even still. So as we get approval on this full network design, what we'll be doing as well is looking at our bus stop locations, reassessing where those locations are, and if we can improve that even further. So I think we'll have better impact on that as we get to a final network design, and certainly from an infrastructure improvement on the street and where we locate our bus stops. So we'll be able to make some improvements there even further. First kilometer, last kilometer. Obviously, those areas that are the darker purple are areas that we're looking at for first kilometer, last kilometer solutions. So as much as we talk about walking distance in those areas, we're looking to come back to council with a plan to address those areas as well in the first kilometer, last kilometer project that we have ongoing. We'll be at council on November 13th talking about first kilometer, last kilometer solutions. What does that look like? So we'll get a good indication of the support for that as we move on November 13th. So you'll see a lot of that looking at areas and low-density populations, geographical constraints that we have. A lot of the areas that you see in the darker purple are industrial areas or geographical issues around the river valley, things like that. So stay tuned to November 13th. It'll be an exciting council. Maybe it's committee, actually, sorry. So next steps. We'll be revising the plan for the public and reviewing that in late 2018. New service policy is going to go to council, so our service standards, what does that look like for the new network? What does a local service standard look like? What does a high-frequency service standard look like? We'll be going to council in early 2019. Developing our route schedules is going to happen continuously now from now and for the next year. This is a big undertaking for our schedulers and planners to work through this entire new network and make sure that it gets scheduled and ready to go for the rollout of the network in mid-2020. On the public engagement side, the public invited to share all their perspectives in the draft network from October 25th to December 9th. We're going to be going out and with multiple workshops. We have 13 community workshops. We have an online survey that'll go live on October 25th, so the day that we start the public engagement. That'll go online and live on the 25th. Targeted engagement events for our groups with specific needs as well, and as well as our own employees. We have multiple employee workshops as well, internal to ETS. And our Remix engagement tool, which was pretty popular last time. It's a very interactive engagement tool that we used to look at the network. People can touch and feel the network themselves, look at their specific routes that they have interest in. That will go live as well on October 18th. And today the new map is live. So the new map is live today. Some of the significant changes that we've made, so from the public feedback that we heard, is on that website too, in different kind of quadrants of the city. So people can have a look at that, see some of those big changes that we've made in those areas, and really take that and understand what's changed from what we had previously. So there's the website address for more information. All of the information I'm talking about today is going to be on that website. Everybody can have a look. I guess where we'd like to go now is making sure that people are aware of this next round of engagement. Get out. We want to hear your feedback on the final design. All of that information is going to be collected and taken to council as a part of the conversation point as we get to council in April for that final network approval.